Global trade is in turmoil as President Trump doubles tariffs on imported steel and aluminium to 50%. Enacted June 4, 2025, this move sent shockwaves through international markets. The White House claims these measures protect U.S. factories and jobs. Canada and the European Union, major U.S. trade partners, are especially impacted. The world is watching anxiously as these allies face tough choices. The coming months will test the resilience of America's closest partners. The new U.S. tariffs hit nearly all trading partners, except the UK, which secured a temporary reprieve. Most countries now face a 10% tariff, with even higher rates for worst offenders like China. Tariffs now target not just metals, but also foreign cars, engines, and even films. The UK's deal offers a glimpse of compromise, but new rules threaten major UK exports. As deadlines loom, the world braces for further escalation, and the future of global trade hangs in the balance. Canada, the top exporter of steel and aluminium to the US, is hit hard by the new 50% tariffs. The economic shock is immediate. Factories face higher costs, and demand from US buyers drops. Canadian producers may cut output or shut down if they can't find new markets. The ripple effects threaten jobs in manufacturing, construction, and beyond. The doubling of tariffs turns a difficult situation into a crisis for many Canadian industries. Billions in export revenue and thousands of jobs are at risk. The timing couldn't be worse, as the global economy faces other headwinds. Prime Minister Mark Carney and other leaders voiced deep concern about the long-term impact. Canada's reliance on the US market has exposed its vulnerability. The government faces mounting pressure to act decisively. Diversifying trade partners is now a top priority. The need for a new economic strategy is urgent. Canada must rethink its place in the global economy. The stakes are high for workers, businesses, and communities. The challenge: protect Canadian interests without escalating the conflict. The next steps will define Canada's economic future. Can Canada weather the storm and emerge stronger? The answer depends on bold leadership and swift action. The world is watching Canada's response. Canada isn't standing still. The government is preparing possible reprisals if talks with the US fail. Prime Minister Carney signals a mix of diplomacy and firmness, hoping for resolution but ready to retaliate. Earlier in 2025, Canada responded to US tariffs with its own taxes on American vehicles. This tit-for-tat approach shows Canada's willingness to defend its interests. Provincial leaders and unions are urging Ottawa to stand firm. Business leaders, anxious about uncertainty, want a swift resolution. The escalating dispute is delaying investments and disrupting supply chains. Long-term planning is nearly impossible for many firms. Some support strong action, others fear further escalation. The government must balance protecting jobs with avoiding deeper economic harm. The pressure on Ottawa is intense. Canada's response will shape its economic trajectory for years. The stakes: jobs, industry stability, and national sovereignty. The challenge: find a path that protects Canadian interests without sparking a trade war. The coming weeks will test Canada's resolve and strategy. Can Ottawa craft a solution that safeguards the economy? The answer will define Canada's role in a changing world. The need for a clear, decisive strategy has never been greater. Canada's next move is critical. With US trade ties under strain, Canada is looking east to the European Union for new opportunities. The EU offers a vast, stable market and a chance to diversify away from US dependence. Strengthening ties with Europe is a proactive move, not just a reaction. A deeper Canada-EU alliance could offset losses from US tariffs and boost economic resilience. The Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement, CETA, already provides a strong foundation. Expanding cooperation could open new markets for Canadian exports and spur innovation. Regulatory alignment and reduced barriers would help Canadian firms adapt. This pivot is about more than economics. It's about asserting Canada's place on the global stage. Shared values and mutual respect underpin the Canada-EU relationship. The urgency to diversify has never been clearer. For Canada, Europe represents stability and opportunity amid US uncertainty. Enhancing CETA and deepening cooperation is a logical next step. The move could protect jobs and industries at home. It also signals a shift toward a more multipolar trading world. Canada's future may depend on forging new alliances. The EU partnership could be the key to long-term security. The time to act is now. The European Union has responded to US tariffs with a mix of disappointment and determination. Chief negotiator Maroš Šefčovič urges collaboration over confrontation, but the EU is ready to defend its interests. Talks with the US continue, with both sides seeking exemptions and more predictable trade rules. The EU is open to lowering some tariffs, like those on US fertilizers, but won't compromise on food safety standards. This limits the scope for certain trade-offs, but signals willingness to negotiate. The economic fallout is real. German industrial output and exports to the US have dropped sharply. EU leaders face pressure to protect jobs and uphold the single market. The path forward requires careful negotiation and unity. The EU's dual strategy seeks de-escalation, but prepare for robust defense if needed. High-level talks in Paris and Washington show commitment to dialogue. The stakes are high for European industries and workers. The EU's response will shape its economic future and global standing. The challenge balance openness with protecting core interests. The next phase of talks will be crucial. Can the EU secure fair treatment without sacrificing its principles? The answer will impact millions across Europe. The world is watching Brussels as closely as Washington. The EU's resolve will be tested in the weeks ahead. The tariffs are sending shockwaves through North America's economies. The US Congressional Budget Office warns of reduced economic output. Oxford Economics predicts a drop in US business investment due to higher costs. Business leaders, including Elon Musk, warn of a possible recession linked to Trump's trade policies. The IMF and OECD have downgraded global growth forecasts, with the US among the hardest hit. US economic growth has already slowed, and companies are making tough choices. The American Automotive Policy Council warns of higher car assembly costs. Major brands like Adidas and Mattel are raising prices. Procter & Gamble is cutting thousands of jobs. The US trade deficit narrowed, but only because imports fell as companies braced for tariffs. Business optimism has plummeted, with confidence at its lowest since Trump's election. Investment and expansion plans are on hold. Canada faces similar pressures, especially in export-driven industries. The uncertainty is stalling growth and threatening jobs on both sides of the border. The economic pain is real and spreading. The longer the dispute drags on, the deeper the damage. North America's economic future hangs in the balance. The need for resolution is urgent. Trade wars aren't just headlines, they hit home for ordinary people. Tariffs drive up prices on everyday goods, from cars to groceries. Companies pass higher costs to consumers, raising the weekly shopping bill. The auto sector is especially hard hit, with new car prices up 2.5% in April 2025. Families face bigger bills for essentials and major purchases. Job security is also at risk. Industries using steel and aluminium face higher costs and global competition. Companies like Procter & Gamble are cutting jobs, citing tariffs and falling demand. Uncertainty makes businesses hesitant to invest or hire. Communities reliant on affected industries feel the strain. Slower growth means fewer job opportunities and stagnant wages. Border delays and disrupted supply chains add to the pain. The broader economy suffers as confidence drops. Trade disputes create anxiety for workers and families. The impact ripples through every sector, from manufacturing to retail. The longer the conflict, the greater the toll on everyday life. Policymakers must weigh these real-world costs. The stakes are personal for millions. The outcome will shape household budgets and job prospects for years. The global trading system stands at a crossroads. Tensions are high and negotiations are fraught with uncertainty. Looming deadlines add urgency. Temporary tariff pauses expire in early July. Canada and the EU may deepen their partnership as a counterweight to US protectionism. Such alliances could reshape global trade, moving away from US-centric models. Alternatively, US policy could shift if economic pain or political pressure mounts. The next US election cycle may influence trade decisions. The ideal outcome, a return to stable, rules-based trade, but the trend points to continued friction and strategic competition. Canada and the EU must act with agility and unity. The US faces the challenge of balancing domestic priorities with global leadership. The choices made now will shape international commerce for years. The world is watching and waiting for the next move. The future of global trade hangs in the balance.